Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
After picking up AJ Green, potentially.
League-winning move right there.
Uh-huh.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the DLF Trade Show. I am your host, Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse. Yes, he is your host, co-host, also host, Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes_. And while, last week we did Calvin Ridley, and that was a good show because I love Calvin Ridley, and that's all that really matters to me. And you were on my side for a lot of it, which made me feel a lot less crazy, but also made me a little closer feeling to you because we had the same feelings. And I think that's going to spill over a little bit into this week because we're talking about Juju Smith-Schuster this week. And in case you don't know, in case this is your first time watching this show, what we like to do is give you like a good 360 round view of the trade value of one player every single week. We're going to give you position for position trades. We're going to give you position for, well, let's talk specifics. Juju's a wide receiver. We're going to go wide receiver for wide receiver. We're going to go wide receiver for running back. We're going to go wide receiver for quarterback in a super flex league because you really just shouldn't be trading for quarterbacks in a one quarterback league. But, you know, we don't judge. Maybe we do a little bit. And then we have, what did you label it as again?
Horrible trades.
Horrible trades. We've gone away from the overpay and underpay because sometimes they just melt together and they just become horrible trades. So that's going to be always a little fun little thing at the end to probably get me angry like it always does every single show. But we are talking Juju, and I got my bias out of the way last week by letting everyone know how much I love Calvin Ridley. Who are you a fan of in the NFL?
Steelers fan. Right.
Okay, we just needed to get that out of the way. Oh yeah, you got the hat right there. Nice. Well, I mean, put it on top just so it's brand on brand, baby.
No, I think I like it like this. The brand will still stay right there, though. DLF.
Oh, there you go. It's still on the screen. Okay, cool. So there you go. We need all the cards on the table before we get started. So I want to talk about Juju Smith-Schuster, and I was so happy. I don't remember if I brought it up or if you brought him up, but I'm glad we're talking about him because
it came from a comment. I want to make that known.
Yes.
This came from a comment on the Calvin Ridley show. So we're definitely open to that. If you guys have any players that you specifically would like to see us break down in terms of trade value, leave a comment down below and we will do them because sometimes we just struggle to find players. So
yeah, we go through the players we want to talk about and they're like, oh man, who else do we talk about? Someone commented. Thank you for the one person that watches our show. Yay. I'm sure there's at least 6. I know. Come on. So yes, I'm thrilled to talk about Juju Smith-Schuster because I got to be honest, I disagree so hard with his value right now. And we're going to get into it a little bit. We're just going to jump straight in. We have a trade, 12-team Superflex, Juju Smith-Schuster, and a 24-second for Jeudy. And I love Jeudy. I'm going to be honest. He is a huge buy of mine right now because people think he did poorly last year. He did pretty well, even though one game he had a wide receiver playing quarterback for his team. Not to mention but this isn't about Jeudy, so we're not going to talk about Jeudy for too long. But here's the thing. Straight to the analyzer values. In a Superflex league, Juju Smith-Schuster is worth 241.1. Jeudy, 208.9. They shouldn't be this close. Juju Smith-Schuster has a top 15 season under his belt already. He is, like the same age pretty much as Jeudy still, even though he's been in the league for 6 years because he came into the league at 13. Like I don't understand why everyone is just not into Juju Smith-Schuster right now. The only thing I can get behind people being upset about with him is being on a 1-year contract. So you don't know where he'll be next year. It's not like he won't be in the league. He's not going to magically just go away. He's not going to hit free agency and no one's going to sign him. He's going to be in the league. He's going to be in the league for a lot of seasons going forward. So the fact that he's only 241, and I went right away to pull up ADP before we started recording because I know I had to bring it up. And since we're talking Superflex now, and that's what I play mostly, his ADP 89. Like, we're talking, what, 7th, 8th round? You're getting a guy who has had a top 15 wide receiver who, in a bad year, puts up 200 fantasy points.
He was a wide receiver 2 last year. He was actually a top 10 wide receiver from week, I think it was 5 or 6 on last year. People want to talk about like the beginning of the year that he had last year, and that was really whenever Chase Claypool had that huge like 3 touchdown game, you know, and like Juju wasn't really as involved. Then he had that one game where he had like 2 targets, maybe 1 reception, and then everybody was like, nope, I'm completely done with Juju. Literally the week after that, through the rest of the season, Juju was a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. And he was fantastic. And I mean, it's funny whenever people also talk about the fact that his ADOT's like really low. And also like his yards per reception last year was really low because he had nearly 100 receptions last year. Only took about 850 or 900 yards out of that, but then also had another 9 touchdowns. So we're talking about a receiver who last year had 100 receptions almost and 9 receiving touchdowns. And people don't want this guy. And I feel like a lot of that's from the fatigue that we had whenever Antonio Brown first left, and everybody was like, Juju Smith-Schuster's like Dynasty wide receiver 1 overall. He's fantastic, all that stuff. And then that didn't happen. So there's like a lot of fatigue, I think, associated with Juju that he's just like not great. It's kind of, I think, the same thing that happened with Joe Mixon, although Juju has actually produced better than Mixon.
Yeah.
He's actually shown it, more than once, I think. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's really weird. That's kind of going to be the name of the game for this show as I was pulling trades off the Trade Finder, is people just don't really like Juju right now. It's weird.
Which means I'm going, before tomorrow when you release this, I am going to go offer a trade in every single league I don't already have him in, where I know I have him in probably about 25% at this point. Right. I'm in a lot of leagues, so that's not super too many, but I'm still going to go and try and get more. Okay, so I feel like we're going to choose Juju on every side of this trade, but I also, I think this is a little bit of a good thing because we are showing how we really value him, how 2 people who are in a lot of, I'm in a lot of leagues, but you're very good at this game. So while I go for quantity, you're the quality part of it. And we can let people know how we really feel about his value. But then you could also see, I'm pointing to my second screen that has the trades on it. They can see what I'm pointing to. You can see these trades, what people are actually getting him for, and go for it is really what it comes down to. Let's take this horrible pick out of there. This is Juju for Jerry Jeudy. How is it not Juju every single time? Mm-hmm. Again, I started talking this trade saying I love Jerry Jeudy. But how is it not Juju Smith-Schuster? A guy we've seen do it, a guy who is practically the same age. I think there's about 1.5 to 2 years difference. And a guy who has been in the league, has a better rapport with a better quarterback. Even if Roethlisberger is 90% toast, he's probably better than whatever, unless the Broncos trade for Aaron Rodgers, which is a different story altogether. But whether it's Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater, that's not going to help Jerry Jeudy. Mm-hmm. So, to me, Juju 100% of the time. And the fact that they're only 40 points apart, 38 points apart in the trade analyzer, which means they're early third, late second at best. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous. And I also, Jerry Jeudy on the ADP where Juju is 89. He's 92. Jerry Jeudy is literally 3 spots later. Yeah. To me, I kind of want to I know that's not the point of the show, but I want to go up the ADP of all the wide receivers and tell you how many people I would take Juju over, but we're not going to do that now. So clearly we both agree, we both think this. Well, I didn't really ask you. Do you think this is Juju?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean,
I just realized I was absolutely speaking for you, and I didn't mean to do that.
The other thing too about Juju that's really interesting for his dynasty value is that he is on that 1-year deal. So it is kind of like a run back of what he did last year, which I mentioned again, top 10 wide receiver from week 6 on. But then he's on that 1-year deal. So all of that stuff with What do we do with Deontay and Chase Claypool? Because this could be Big Ben's last year. What's their quarterback situation going to look like? Juju is kind of free from that because he can choose next year where he wants to go, where he wants to play. What if he actually, a lot of people wanted this to happen this past year, but what if all this Aaron Rodgers stuff fixes in Green Bay? Rodgers is there. Then he goes and signs with Green Bay. He's the wide receiver 2 behind Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's a fantastic situation. Can you imagine his value if he goes and signs with the Kansas City Chiefs next year? Like, his production might not be there. In my opinion, I don't think the production would really be there, but the value would definitely be there.
Yes.
So Juju's going to go and decide where, he wants to play and which quarterback he's going to attach himself to. And that is going to be beneficial to his value. So I think, grabbing him now as like a back end wide receiver 2, potential, wide receiver 3 sometimes in ADP or at trade value makes a lot of sense because you're going to beat that in production this year. Then you're going to have that potential value spike next year whenever he goes and signs with potentially a better team and potentially a better situation.
All right. And the one last point along of what you were saying I want to make before we move on to the next trade is people I know of people, I should say, that were concerned that he did just sign that 1-year deal. It's not that no one else wanted him. He did have an offer from Kansas City, but the thing is the salary cap went down this coming year. Next year, the new TV contract kicks in. So Juju bet on himself that he can do well again 1 year. So next year, he can get that crazy contract that he knew he wasn't going to get this year. So this has nothing to do with him hitting the market and no one wanting him. This is him. It's not even betting on himself because he's shown what he can do. This is him biding his time, waiting to get that contract. Yep. So do not worry about the 1-year deal thing. It was absolutely a game of chess on his part.
Yeah, 100%. Not worried about it at all.
Right. So this one is going to be tough for both of us. This next trade is Juju Smith-Schuster, a 22 second and third for Allen Robinson. Now, this is your biases punching each other in the face because you have a Steeler and a Penn State wide receiver.
It's like you're talking to Brian Harr all over again.
It's always fun to do that to him. Yes. So how do you feel about this one? Juju second and a 22 second, 22 third, Allen Robinson.
Yeah, this one I would actually lean the Allen Robinson side. I think that I like the production floor a lot more from A-Rob. I think his situation, assuming that he stays in Chicago more than just the franchise tag, although he himself could find himself in a better situation with a different quarterback next year. I trust the production more from Allen Robinson as more of a wide receiver 1 type output. That Juju, I don't think the ceiling's necessarily there for Juju outside of maybe a few games where he finds the end zone and also has 7 or 8 receptions, kind of like he did last year. So I trust Allen Robinson, and the second and the third are just kind of like whatever to me on top of it.
Yeah, the package of the Juju side is 310.7. Allen Robinson is 323.1. So the analyzer finds this insanely fair. And yeah, I'm exactly with you, honestly. Like, I love Allen Robinson. He's one of my dudes. If I was not lazy, I would have a signed jersey of him hanging behind me. But I'm lazy, so there's this empty wall behind me. But, it's up in my closet, keeping my closet warm. So here's the thing. Exactly what you said. Allen Robinson put up a wide receiver 8 season with a combination of Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
And imagine if Justin Fields walks in, and Justin Fields is good. Maybe Allen Robinson goes higher than that. The only reason I see doing this is trying to get those 5 years, not even 5 years, 3 years.
3 years.
Trying to get those 3 years back if you're trying to rebuild a little bit. Otherwise, to me, this is pretty lateral, and I don't think I would trade away Allen Robinson to get Juju. Because like we did say, I don't know if Juju has wide receiver 8 in his future.
In the end of year future.
Yeah, mostly because he's that dude. He's the X receiver. Yeah, he's the alpha.
150 targets for A-Rob and 120 maybe for Juju because of the other players that he's also playing with. Allen Robinson is that guy.
Yeah, you're in the same situation where you're on a 1-year deal. I don't even think Robinson signed the franchise tag yet.
I think he did. I think that was like a week or two ago. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then I missed that, and that makes me happier. So you're still dealing with someone on a 1-year deal. and you're still dealing with someone who's going to find a contract next year. So like these two things just sort of cancel each other out. So you have to tell yourself, who do you see a higher upside for? Or if you're rebuilding, I'm going to buy back those years. So really, this is a matter of preference between these two. You're just talking to two guys who happen to like the X better than the slot plus.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, now this is a little bit different. This next trade is Juju and a 22 first for Michael Thomas. I have thoughts. Here's my thing. The reason this trade breaks my brain a little bit, they're both in the same boat. They're both being undervalued for what their production most likely will be. I can't say will be because I can't see the future, but also their value just shrank out of, well, not out of nowhere for Michael Thomas. He was hurt, and they had weird QB stuff going on last year. And Drew Brees, who, like, man, you could see that Drew Brees was done by the end of the season. Right. Like he at the end wasn't even really trying to, throw the ball more than 4 yards. But the weird thing is, like, Juju fell down to 241 in the trade analyzer, and Michael Thomas is still hovering at 364. So the analyzer has, oh wow, a 22 first is worth more than Juju Smith-Schuster. That's I'm sending that a first for Juju. I'm doing that. I'm going to go send that out now. Michael Thomas has an ADP of 55. And Juju,
he's a wide receiver 1, I think, or a borderline wide receiver 1 in ADP.
Wide receiver 15, right below wide receiver 14, Allen Robinson. Just saying. Right. So paying a second and third instead of a first. I mean, I guess that guy got a good deal out of it. If I'm the Michael Thomas owner and someone offers me Juju and a first, I think I take it.
Yes,
I think somewhere around Michael Thomas. Does he have the wide receiver 1 upside anymore? I don't think so. Without Drew Brees, they still have Kamara, but it's not, the running game's not what it used to. The offensive line isn't exactly what it used to. So if Michael Thomas has a wide receiver outlook of 6 to 12, 6 to 15-ish, and Juju has 10 to 16-ish, that overlap is more than enough. And again, this is purely my opinion. This isn't anything I've seen, anything I've read, me predicting the future. This is purely just my guess of what their outcome is. There's enough of that overlap where I'm just going to take the pick.
Yep. Yeah, to me, it's 100% the first. I mean, I think that you can both simultaneously think that Michael Thomas is undervalued, but also kind of a sell right now, just because he is 28 years old. The quarterback situation is kind of iffy. We're not really sure what's going on, even though we do believe that Michael Thomas can still be that alpha, not like the 180 target alpha that we saw with Drew Brees 2 years ago when he was the wide receiver 1. But if he's 140 to 150, that's what he was getting the couple of years before 2019. And he was still, a back end, like wide receiver 7 type of wide receiver. So I think if the efficiency goes down a little bit because it's not Drew Brees,
because especially if it's Jameis or it's Taysom, right. Either way, the accuracy is going down a bunch.
Right. So, I definitely think that Michael Thomas can be a value in terms of his redraft value and what you're going to be getting out of him in this year in 2021, but also still a dynasty sell. And so this one to me, because the difference is a first between Juju and Michael Thomas, I'm taking the pick. If it was a second, I probably still would take Juju, but
the value would probably be more. the value would be more like on spot where you would think about it a little bit. Right. But I think I side with the extra at that point. Like, and he's either like, not to say they're even, but it's one of those trades where either side, whichever had the extra to it, I would take.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's move on to running backs, where there's a good chance I'm siding with wide receivers on both of them because I hate running backs. Seriously, no bias goes into this show whatsoever, I promise. The first one is 12-team Superflex. We have Juju Smith-Schuster and the 207 for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I still remember that first game of the season where the announcers just so hard, Helaire, because, they needed to let you know that the H doesn't actually make any sounds. Here's my thing. I don't super trust Clyde Edwards-Helaire to have the ceiling of more than a lower end 1 if he's lucky. Here's my thing. The Chiefs keep bringing in running backs. the Chiefs keep trying to bring in running backs. Not to say that Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't good, not to say that he's not going to get the ball, that he's not going to score fantasy points. But I just don't think he has that running back one upside that maybe he did when everyone went nuts when he got drafted by the Chiefs. Juju is at 241 still in the trade analyzer. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is at 448.7. I mean, that's actually getting the right value for Juju, which good for this CEH guy. Honestly, like I said at this point, I'm taking Juju just because I do think the ceiling is higher. I do think that he's 2 years older, in which case I still think Juju's going to have a longer career just because he's a wide receiver and he's still crazy young. And running backs, it's weird that Damian Williams was the last good running back because in Kansas City, because it's not like Damian Williams was anything good, but ever since then, no one's been able to do all that well. So I am absolutely just fine going away from Kansas City running backs and just saying, yes, give me some Juju. And again, yay, 207.
I disagree.
Oh.
I'm taking Clyde here, and I think it's pretty easily Clyde. He was an RB1 up until week 11 whenever he got hurt last year. Even with Le'Veon Bell for the handful or 3 or 4 games that he had whenever they signed Le'Veon. Clyde, to me, has our top 5 running back upside, in my opinion, with touchdowns and with good touchdown variance. And I think a lot of people want to make a lot with the goal line carries and opportunities that he got, specifically in that first game where he had 6, but for some reason Andy Reid thought it was smart to run it right up the middle,
right up
5'9" running back, and they had no offensive line at that point. His offensive line is a lot better now, and I think that Clyde is just going to be a back-end RB1 that you can just kind of plug and play as your RB2, be really happy with his production, and if touchdown variance goes the right way, you could have a top 5 running back, in my opinion. That's essentially how Shady McCoy was in Philly. He had years where he kind of, ping-ponged from top 5 production down to RB13, and then maybe stayed at that RB13 level for another year or two, and then ping-pong back up. I think Clyde could do that exact same thing, and I'm taking Clyde here over Juju.
See, here's the I said very, very poorly before. To me, this is actually straight up a fair trade, even though the analyzer doesn't agree with it, because I put Juju higher and I pull Clyde a little lower. Mm-hmm. So it does come down to, again, a preference call. Who you think is better is the wrong word. To me, I just think Juju will be more consistent, more solid. I'm trying to think of the right way to say it, and I'm not necessarily sure if either of those are right, but it's at least what I think. While he may not have the ceiling that at least you think CEH does, I just kind of don't agree. Maybe RB10, I might be his upside. I don't think he's going to catch the ball enough, and yeah, he's going to have to pull
that's what he was last year before he got hurt.
He's going to have to, but he's going to have to pull Aaron Jones touchdowns in order to move up to 5.
You're telling me you can't do that in Kansas City's offense?
They don't run the ball enough anymore. They just, I don't think so. And I want to talk about real quick that first game where everyone was going nuts about him not getting those goal line touches. To me, it's the same thing as a wide receiver and drops. The important thing is he kept getting those attempts. Mm-hmm. That means the coach was still willing to let him go try it. So I was actually into CEH after that first game because I know everyone was going nuts that he missed those 5 runs. But again, they kept putting him out there to do it, which means whether it's variance, whether it's the O-line getting a little bit of a better push, whether it's CEH getting a little lower to get underneath or to gain leverage, you learn that. You get lucky. There's things that'll happen that'll turn that into a touchdown. But I still pick Juju. I still just think we can see, especially if Juju next year goes to a team where there aren't 3 targets and now a good running back, if he does go into Green Bay where it's literally just Devontae Adams, a 29-year-old Devontae Adams, which means he's just decrepit, right? Juju Smith-Schuster and maybe, Aaron Jones is still there. He got signed. He didn't get tagged. In that case, I'm all about Juju there also. So to me, I'd rather ride that train as opposed to your rolling thunder of maybe ping-ponging value of Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
All right. Fair enough. I'm going to basically say the same thing with this next one too. I'm already gonna tell you right now. I'm choosing the running back in the next one.
Okay, well, the next trade is 12-team 1 quarterback.
Yes.
Where it is Juju Smith-Schuster, 22 first, 2 seconds, and a third. So Juju, a first, 2 seconds, and a third for Antonio Gibson. The entire package on the Juju side is 616.3, and Gibson is 659.4. I think I believe in Antonio Gibson. So I think I might be there too. I agree with the analyzer. I think this is a fair trade. I think adding a first and change on top of Juju should get you there. And I love that it does, in this calculator, because it seems, one QB seems to really, have boosted his scoring or his analyzer value. I get that Antonio Gibson is young, but in my mind, when you're rebuilding a team, I get rid of running backs. So if my team, if I'm rebuilding, retooling, where I don't want to win and I don't plan to win in the next year or two, I easily do this trade to give away Gibson and get Juju and those picks.
Yeah, I'm in on that.
But if I'm middle of the road, if I'm anything, what you think of CEH, I think of Gibson. And you know what? He did have that variance of touchdowns last year, which shows he can do that. Like, he scored a lot more touchdowns than he should have last year, and the offense got better, which is only a good thing for running backs. So while I think this is I love this trade, I think this is insanely fair, where it's actually making me say team dependent, where I think that's such a cop-out answer.
To me, I'm not anti-wide receiver, but I find that a lot of them are very replaceable, especially given the fact that the position is very deep right now. Like, you could go like 35 players deep at the wide receiver position, and you're going to still find a guy who can produce as a wide receiver too. I mean, like, we talked about Robert Woods literally like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he's like outside the top 30 wide receiver, but he could potentially end as a wide receiver 1 this year and next year. So, I mean, like, a lot of that stuff I feel like is very replaceable. You could replace Juju on your roster with Kenny Golladay or Deontay Johnson or Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp. Like, just like any of those guys, you're going to get the same thing. But none of them you're not going to be able to get package and get to that point with Antonio Gibson, in my opinion, unless you do something like this. So I think that I'm just going to take the running back here, grab a top running back in terms of value, maybe not necessarily production. In my mind, I'm not as high on Antonio Gibson, but I do think that he could be a borderline RB1. And I'm just going to take the top running back value and try to replace Juju with someone else, like a 27 or 28-year-old, if I need that production. But I'm with you on the rebuild.
And honestly, the weird thing is I agree with everything you just said. And I still kind of side with, just because it's the multiple pieces, just because it's that first and 2 seconds. Let's move on. Oh man. All right. So we're moving on to QB trade and Superflex. 12-team Superflex. This one hurts my soul. Trading away Juju Smith-Schuster and Cortland Sutton, 2 dudes I love, for Kirk Cousins and 2 seconds. I can't do this. I could never do this. First of all, I've already talked about how I think Juju is way too low. Cortland Sutton at 215.3? No. Come on. Like, we're going to see him play 1 game next year, and we're going to remember how good he is, and people are going to feel really silly about it. And don't get me wrong. I understand that Kirk Cousins is perennially undervalued. He always gives you QB 12, well, even higher than that, 10 to 14. Like, he always gives you a good quarterback season. Seconds or whatever at this point, especially next year, where we're saying the class isn't going to be, I say we like I have any say in it. Like, people that know Devi are saying that the 22 class isn't going to be that great. Man, like, I was about to say I have to be super dead at quarterback, but no, I can't give up 2 young, very good wide receivers for Kirk Cousins. Like, to me, you should be getting, I mean, we've been talking about Tannehill so much that he's stuck in my brain, but like that QB 7-ish, that's the lowest I would go for these 2 guys.
I think it's interesting that, like, essentially what this comes down to, if you look at the actual numbers, is
I didn't play that. Go ahead, read them out.
It's Juju's at 241, like we've been saying. Cortland Sutton's at 215. Kirk Cousins is at 255, and both seconds are 90 each for 180 total. So value-wise, it's basically Juju for Kirk Cousins, and then Sutton for 2 seconds. So like,
I'm not a fan of that.
That's so weird to me. And then you're giving up 2 of those wide receivers for Cousins and 2 seconds. Like I can't do that. I'd rather just be like, you know what? Don't even do the seconds and just go right to Ryan Tannehill. Go to Baker Mayfield, or like go to like
Tua?
Justin Fields. Like, why does it have to be Kirk Cousins? Like, that's such like a low end quarterback move. That's so weird. And again, I mean, you mentioned it. Cousins is like perennially undervalued, but he's not a sexy player and a sexy name in the community. He's like outside the top 20 in value. You know, like it's just like so low on the quarterback totem pole for value that like it doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, why do you make this trade? I
just want to throw it out there that Kirk Cousins is 59th in ADP because I have I fixed my Superflex ADP screen, and like Addison was just saying, the reason you like acquiring Kirk Cousins is because you could usually get him cheaper value wise than his production output. You're paying for more than that production output, I think, by moving these 2 wide receivers. All right, horrible trades. 12-team Superflex. We have Tyreek Hill, Juju Smith-Schuster for J.K. Dobbins. Wow. Okay, took me aback for a second. Let me rewind, start over. I can't do it. Tyreek Hill and Juju Smith-Schuster for J.K. Dobbins and Gabriel Davis. Man, what?
I don't know. Somebody needed a running back really, really bad, and they thought they were getting a major sleeper in Gabriel Davis.
If this league is 0.25 points per carry, I still don't do this. I mean, no. This is still not good. Like, maybe, okay, let me take that back. In 0.25 points per carry, maybe Dobbins is close to Tyreek, but I'd still rather have Tyreek. Like, to me, he's a top 3 Dynasty wide receiver.
Yes.
You know, not to get into argument of who's 1, 2, or 3, but to me, he's still up there, especially in production, even if you don't want to give it to him in value. And to Juju, and like, man, like, I like Gabriel Davis. I'm going to put that out there. I've been buying him a lot. You don't have to pay much for him, but 43 points, like, you're not getting Gabe Davis for a third. And that's pretty much what they're saying. You think you're getting Gabe Davis for a third? That's a look you gave me.
No, like 211, 212.
All right, so still, that's not a 3. I'll take it. So yeah, that's I love that you find these, and I love that I don't look until it's time to read them because oh my god, that was an absolute real reaction where I couldn't read.
Yeah, that one was a bad one I saw in there, and I was just kind of taken aback. I was like, wait. I was like, even if you take the liberty of saying Tyreek and J.K. Dobbins are the same, like you're trying to trade those one
Juju
for one.
Gabe Davis.
Juju
that's
is not right. Gabe Davis, and that again is taking the liberty of saying that Tyreek and J.K. Dobbins are the same. That's you have a hard time convincing me of that. Even in a points per carry league, if it's like 1 point per carry, then go J.K. Dobbins. That will be my takeaway from this trade of that other side. Yeah, maybe I should look to see.
I don't know. Does it have PPC, or maybe there's a notes section, or go to the league?
Go into the actual league, which is too much, and I have to try.
Yeah, that sounds like way too much work. Let's just stick making fun of it. All right, but that is our last trade for the day, and I unfortunately have to get back to work. So this has been another wonderfully fantastic episode of the DLF Trade Show. I am so glad we got to talk about Juju because I really needed to get my anger about how disrespected he is out there, but also I'm glad I can get it out there at a time where Addison has to edit and it'll take a day to get out, so I can go make trades for him now before people see this and start saying, no, I know that how you feel about him. I'm going to ask you for more. So I'm going to screw up a little bit. So Addison has to edit a little more and make this take a little bit longer. All right. Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes at Maze Hayes DLF Trade Show. Thanks for watching. Comment about any players you want us to talk about, or just let us know how much you love us, because we love hearing that. And see you next time.